Hello everybody, today I'll be doing an informative speech discussing the Kinsey Scale. As you can see, I have my audience behind me and allow me to get started. As a girl, I find certain female celebrities such as Beyonce incredibly attractive. And I know a lot of men who find male celebrities such as Ryan Reynolds unfairly attractive. Currently, it's not a crime to find the same sex attractive. However, it hasn't always been like this. The word gay used to have a very heavy negative connotation, and currently I'm happy to live in a more accepting time period. I've done extensive research on the LGBT+ and the Kinsey Scale as it is available in the 21st century. In a 27-country study by IPSOS, 21% of people are in the LGBT+ or questioning. The reality is sexuality is a broad spectrum, and that is exactly what the Kinsey Scale represents. It is a spectrum that tests the taker on their sexual tendencies, and today I'll be discussing the Kinsey Scale, including its description, origin, and importance on the sexual revolution in the 60s. To start off with, the Kinsey Scale is a metric that was first published in a co-authored book written by Alfred C. Kinsey, a biologist and a sex researcher. The Kinsey Scale is a visual representation of human sexual behavior, desire, and fantasy on a 7-point band, including a separate X category for those with no sexual experience or attractions. The Kinsey Scale was introduced to the public in a book called The Sexual Behavior in the Human Male, mostly known as the Male Volume, in 1948. The book consisted of a 5,300 study by white American men, and a sister book was later released called The Sexual Behavior in the Human Female 5 years later. Since its production in the 1948, it's been used as a tool for representation and knowledge on concept of human sexuality existing on a spectrum, an easy-to-read, accessible, and numerical format instead of a strict labeled format of sexuality. Moving onward to the scale's origin, before its production, study and experimentation had to be taken. Kinsey and his wife, Clara McMillan, were married in 1924, and as most newlyweds do, they wanted to consummate their marriage. After heavy experimentation, Kinsey decided to teach a marriage course focusing on sex. He realized that information on sex for pure pleasure versus for conception was severely lacking. His class loved his ideas, and Kinsey took the ideas state and countrywide. He compiled data, took on apprenticeships, and even used him and his wife's sex life as data to produce the human, male, and female volumes of his book. In an article written by Brown and Fee in 2003 about Kinsey's sex research, it even stated that he would have dinner parties that doubled as sex parties or field study. Kinsey attempted to push a narrative that replaced conventional ideas with a new definition. Nearly all the so-called sexual perversions fall within a range of normalcy. Now that I've covered its origin and its creator, I'll now be discussing the scale's impact on the sexual liberation movement. The sexual liberation movement, or the sex revolution, was a social movement that challenged traditional ideas related to sex, sexuality, and interpersonal relations. The Kinsey Scale and the Male Volume was released in the heat of the sexual revolution, and it allowed for those struggling with their identity and their sexuality to finally be seen. For instance, quoted from an article by Rob Latham on sexual revolution in 2013, sexual explicitness in art increased markedly during the 60s, prompted by a series of U.S. Supreme Court decisions striking down censorship efforts aimed at banning literary books by D.H. Lawrence and Henry Miller. Referencing a sexual study such as Kinsey's was a way to have an academic foothold to argue in court. Kinsey's reports on human sexual behavior revolutionized the ways in which people thought about sexuality and sex. With 18,000 people partaking in Kinsey's studies, he helped in discovering a wide range of sexual behaviors that were once originally taboo: masturbation, premarital sex, extramarital sex, and LGBT+ sexualities were Kinsey's as well as the sexual revolution's ideas that they wanted to push and normalize. In conclusion, the heterosexual-homosexual rating scale, or the Kinsey Scale, was created by Alfred Kinsey during an era where traditional ideas of sex being used purely for contraception were present. The scale impacted the sexual liberation movement in the 60s immensely and did a wonderful job in allowing people to finally feel seen. From Kinsey's pioneering studies to Presley's musical pelvic gyrations, from risque films like Baby Doll to the Playboy magazine to the advent of birth control, American culture of this period was marked by the highly visible presence of sexuality. Without the controversial creation of Kinsey's Scale, tolerance towards sexual liberation in society wouldn't exist today. Thank you.